Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. It's good to see you all again as always. Make no mistake, the global economy at the moment is going through incredible review. As we've seen the BRICS countries that have come to realize that at this moment, there is no turning back. They have to move forward to build a solid collaboration and working together. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because it comes at a time when a number of countries across the continent of Africa are beginning to pick up themselves and rallying together with regards to the United States of America's tariff. And more importantly, they have come to understand that the only way to survive the global north is basically joining the BRICS bloc and building some kind of partnership that could enable them to export their products and services. So we've seen in the past couple of days how BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, talking about India and a whole lot of other countries, Ethiopia, new members coming in like Uganda, sending an application, Peru, a whole lot of lists, the list go on and on. So it's to tell you that it is a moment in history that countries begin to realize that we have to work together. We have to not depend on the global north countries because at the moment we've seen how there's a lot of fragmentation in the global economy, countries going alongside similar blocks. So BRICS nations have said, we are tired of this. We really want to move forward because we understand the gravitas that we have. We understand our capacity. And if we can really pull together, we can control that percentage of the global economy that we do have. We can strengthen it. We can build our infrastructure. So the meeting in Brazil is one of importance. It's one of a historical moment, which I would say, because it comes at a time after the United States of America trade tariffs we're talking about with China, with South Africa. If the South Africa saga between the United States of America hasn't woken you up, if the Iran-Israel war and the United States of America's own involvement hasn't woken you up, talking about this geostrategic relationship, and more importantly, the country of China's own back and forth with the United States of America, then now is the moment that the BRICS countries or BRICS nations have realized that we have to work together. To have more context on this, let's go to CGTN Africa and get their own perspective, and then we will continue with our own discussion. Let's roll the clip.
The countdown is on for the 17th BRICS Summit as Brazil prepares for the midpoint of its presidency. This year, the meeting in Rio de Janeiro is expected to set the stage for an expanded alliance. The core members, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, will be shaping a bolder BRICS alongside 6 newcomers: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Indonesia and Saudi Arabia. Joining their fold but not as full members, 9 nations: Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Uganda and Uzbekistan, which have partner country status. Together, the BRICS members represent a significant economic powerhouse, with their economies growing visibly since the first summit in 2009. They represent a significant share of the world's population, nearly half, generating around 40% of global GDP.
Like the United States of America's leader, Mr. Donald Trump, once said that he will slam tariff on a number of those countries among the big BRICS bloc, to the point out. So it's a moment where these countries have to be concerned, because if you look at the global north economy, it's saturated to an extent, the market, because they can be very selective where they import products. The European Union does have its own laws in terms of industrial engagement. Countries that don't meet certain criteria in terms of environmental needs cannot export certain products. So this goes a long way to impact the productivity and export in a number of countries. Like I've said, African countries must at this time come very closer to revive the African Continental Free Trade Area, be closer capacity, go closer to the BRICS bloc, because make no mistake, it is the largest in terms of, according to figures, talking about the global trade or the percentage of the global economy, and it's continued to grow. These are important moments, and these kinds of move by the countries in the BRICS bloc, so to point out, send some chilling and shock waves to the United States of America, and the U.S. leader, Mr. Donald Trump, becomes very concerned. By doing so, he comes out once in a while and said things like this.
From U.S. President Donald Trump's aggressive trade policies and global uncertainty.
I said we're going to put a 100% tariff on every one of those nations.
So at this moment, Brazil is hosting this particular BRICS gathering, and it's an important time to know that African nations, more importantly BRICS nations, have realized that the United States of America, using the particular trade tariff that the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump, so to point out, has implemented in a number of African nations. Make no mistake, that's not going anywhere soon. It hasn't been settled. We look at its relationship with the European Union countries, and some countries across the BRICS nations like India and the rest are cutting some deal behind with the United States of America to see what works and what doesn't work. But the BRICS coming together, I think it's a monumental period in the history of this particular trade bloc, because it sent a strong message to global North countries there. We do understand what you're doing. We understand where the market stands. We understand where the global economy also stands. And we know our capacity and what we can bring on the table. So irrespective of what is going on, we can also call the shot in a number of ways. Let's play the clip.
According to the World Economic Outlook report released in April by the International Monetary Fund, BRICS member countries are now projected to exceed the global economic growth average in 2025, reaching 3.4% in GDP growth against the world average of 2.8%. The report shows in 2024 alone, BRICS collectively reached 4% of GDP growth, while global growth stood at 3.3%. The 11-member bloc of emerging economies play an important role in global trade networks, accounting for 24% of international trade. BRICS Plus reached a major milestone ahead of the summit, their internal trade hitting the $1 trillion mark. But as Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva prepares to host his BRICS counterparts, they have a daunting task ahead. Their trade explosion and growing GDP facing tests from U.S. President Donald Trump's aggressive trade policies and global uncertainty.
I said we're going to put a 100% tariff on every one of those nations.
All eyes now on Rio de Janeiro for BRICS response and how the bloc's leaders plan to show a united front. Rio has indicated that its presidency will focus on two priorities: Global South cooperation and BRICS partnerships for social, economic and environmental development. Najma Abdirizak, CGTN.
Hopefully the BRICS countries and those new members who are applying to join the BRICS, like Uganda and a whole lot of other countries, that continue to see some importance regards to this particular bloc, how they can transform their own international export and build infrastructure collaboration in a whole lot of areas, and lack of dependency from the global North countries that to an extent could price them out in terms of their international competition. So it's important for BRICS nation and this meeting in Brazil for those countries to build stronger collaborations, solid partnership, infrastructural development, growth in a number of areas, improve on trade volumes, and more importantly, internal trade coordination and free flow of products and goods and services. So this is important for this particular time in the global history. Let me know what you think with regards to this particular meeting in Brazil. Why do you think that African countries who are in the BRICS bloc should continue to build closer and strengthening their ties with other members in the region, and more importantly, let the BRICS trade and benefit trickle down in the continent of Africa?
Brazil, Russia, India and China were the world's most promising economies when the first BRICS summit was held in 2009. Since then, the group has expanded twice, first to include South Africa in 2010, and in 2023, 6 new African and Middle East members were welcome. The expansion opens the door to greater bilateral and trade ties, which has brought a boost to South Africa's agricultural sector.
In the BRICS Plus nations, there's a number of products that we are putting there. But if you were to map out of South Africa to the BRICS, of course, citrus, wine, wool are among some of those products that we send to various countries, particularly China, which is an important market for us.
South Africa's citrus industry does business with most of the BRICS Plus nations. 45 million cartons of fruit are sold to these countries, which amounts to almost a third of the industry's global exports.
Russia at the moment, I would argue we have got probably the best market access within the BRICS groups, but we can do much better in China, much deeper penetration. We're just scratching the surface there. So the European countries roughly eat about 10 citrus fruit a year. In China and India, it's 0.2 and 0.3. So they virtually eat nothing.
Europe still remains the biggest market for South African citrus, but plans are in place to significantly grow the industry's global footprint.
If you think that the global South countries are sleeping, then you are mistaken. The current behavior by the United States of America's own administration concerning the trade issues is a wake-up call for most big nations as you look at South Africa's back and forth, China and Russia, including India, who is cutting deals behind with the United States of America. It's important to know that global South countries can no longer rely on their global North partners because most importantly, they can dictate the flow of trade at any time. So building this capacity and working together is the only way for the survival of the global South countries in terms of collaborating very closely with BRICS. BRICS is a game changer so far. There is just no two way to talk about it. And the meeting in Brazil is what is going to call the shot. And the United States of America understand this, and they are paying attention alongside other global North partners.
China's scrapping of tariffs has been a major coup for 53 African countries. But further softening of trade barriers within the grouping will be one of the many issues on the table when leaders meet in Brazil.
The grouping accounts for almost half of global trade, but if you look at the intra-trade within BRICS, it remained fairly small. The key challenges in the BRICS countries are higher tariffs as well as phytosanitary barriers. We need to resolve those, and that's the discussion that is taking place in the various working groups, particularly in agriculture.
When British economist Jim O'Neill coined the BRIC term in 2001, the group was expected to dominate the global economy by 2050, an analysis proving to be fairly accurate. BRICS Plus has grown into a powerful force shaping consumer trends and international trade. It has also become a lifeline for the global South amid escalating global tensions. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
For now, I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.